The air inside Devlin and Royce was thick with exclusivity, a carefully curated atmosphere where silence and well spoke louder than words. Sunlight streamed through pristine glass windows, reflecting off diamonds nestled safely behind bulletproof glass. The faint scent of polished wood and expensive perfume lingered in the air, adding to the boutique's carefully maintained aura of sophistication. Every display case was spotless, every bracelet, watch, and necklace positioned with precision, an unspoken testament to the store's high standards. When Terence Blake Moore stepped inside, however, his presence was an anomaly. Dressed in joggers, a black hoodie, and well-worn running shoes, he didn't fit the expected image of a high-end client. A faint sheen of sweat clung to the collar of his hoodie, remnants of a quick workout he had squeezed in before his next meeting. He moved with quiet confidence, scanning the displays with his hands tucked into his pockets. But there was no welcome, no courteous nod from the staff. Behind the sleek counters, two employees stood engaged in a quiet conversation. One was a middle-aged man in a crisp navy suit, his tie knotted with the precision of someone who knew the importance of appearances. The other was a younger woman, her hair pulled into a tight bun, a tablet in hand. They both noticed him, but neither greeted him. The man's eyes flickered toward the door, a silent suggestion that Terence's time here should be brief. For 30 seconds, Terence stood near the platinum watch display, waiting. Finally, he made eye contact with the woman, offering a polite nod. She didn't respond. He shifted toward the high-end ring collection, lingering just long enough to force acknowledgement. The man in the navy suit finally approached, his step slow, his smile practiced but strained. "Can I help you with something?" His tone carried the weight of exhaustion, as if he had already decided this interaction wouldn't be worth his time. Terence met his gaze with calm politeness. "Just looking for now. Thinking about picking something up for a client." The man tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "We usually work by appointment." Terence chuckled softly. "Didn't realize I needed a reservation to spend money." The man did not laugh. "We try to maintain a certain atmosphere," he explained, his voice carefully measured. "If you're not ready to purchase, we ask that guests avoid handling the merchandise." Terence raised an eyebrow. "I didn't ask to touch anything." The man gave a small, indifferent shrug. "Still, this isn't a browsing store." There was no anger in Terence's face, no visible frustration. He simply studied the man for a moment, then let his eyes sweep the boutique once more. The ambience remained unchanged, cool, quiet, composed. But something had shifted. From the back of the store, the young woman whispered something to her colleague. Terence didn't catch the words, but he caught the tone, nervous, urgent. The man cleared his throat. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Terence held his gaze, unreadable. "You sure about that?" His voice remained steady. The man crossed his arms. "I am." Terence exhaled, a slow breath through his nose. "All right." He turned without a word, walking back out through the glass doors. No argument, no raised voice, just silence. Outside, the California sun greeted him with its indifferent warmth. He pulled out his phone, tapped twice, and brought it to his ear. "Yeah," he said into the receiver. "Tell Warren to meet me at the store. Don't bring the car around yet. Give me 20. He ended the call and leaned against a parking meter, expression unreadable, not angry, not hurt, just tired. This wasn't the first time something like this had happened. But this time it was different. Because this time, he wasn't just a black man being denied entry to a luxury store. He was the owner of it. 12 minutes later, Warren Tate arrived. His blazer flapped behind him as he walked with urgency, Bluetooth still in his ear. He paused when he spotted Terence, now sipping a green juice he grabbed from a nearby shop. "They really did it, huh?" Warren asked, blinking in disbelief. Terence nodded. "Whole thing, from top to bottom." "They asked your name?" "Nope." Warren exhaled sharply. "Did you tell them who you were?" Terence gave him a look. "You think I should have?" Warren shook his head. "Not your job to teach grown folks how to treat people." Terence didn't respond right away. He simply tossed his empty bottle into a recycling bin and straightened up. "Let's go." They walked back across the sidewalk, stepping through the glass doors once more. This time, A soft chime sounded as they entered. Inside, the atmosphere had cooled, or maybe it just felt that way. The same two employees were still there, mid-conversation, their laughter dying the moment they saw Terence return. But now he wasn't alone. Warren carried himself with quiet authority. A small silver pin on his lapel signified his role. Director of Operations for Blake Moore & Co., the parent company that owned Devlin and Royce. The young woman straightened. "Can I help you?" Warren cut in before she could finish. "You're Jennifer, right?" She blinked. "Yes." Warren nodded, then turned to the man beside her. "And you must be Mr. Coyle." The man looked confused. "Yeah, that's me." Warren didn't smile. "I'm Warren Tate, Director of Operations for Blake Moore & Co." Jennifer's mouth parted slightly. Coyle stiffened. Terence took a step forward. His voice was calm, deliberate. "I'm Terence Blake Moore. You work for me." Coyle's posture shrank. His eyes darted between Terence and Warren, realization setting in like a weight on his shoulders. "I own this location," Terence continued, "and the brand above the door." Jennifer glanced down at her tablet, as if hoping to find a way out of this moment. "We didn't know." Terence interrupted her gently. "No, you didn't." He let the words settle. "And that's kind of the problem." Coyle's mouth opened slightly, but he had no words. "You assume I belong here," Terence said simply. "You didn't ask questions. You just made a decision." Coyle tried to recover. You thought I looked like someone who couldn't afford to be here," Terence finished for him. "And even if I couldn't, this store isn't built on deciding who looks rich enough to be treated with respect." Warren leaned casually against the counter. "We'll be holding a full review of staff interactions across all locations, starting today." Coyle paled. "I didn't mean to offend." "You did," Terence said. "You just didn't expect consequences." The room grew heavy with silence. Jennifer stood stiffly, lips pressed tight. Coyle seemed to shrink with every second. Terence glanced around the boutique. His boutique. "It's funny," he said, voice quiet but firm. "I spent most of my life working so I could walk into places like this and not get followed. I finally bought one, and I still couldn't make it past the second case." Warren exhaled. "You want to talk in the back?" "No," Terence shook his head. "Let's keep it right here." His gaze settled on Coyle. "I want them to hear this." He wasn't here for an apology. He was here for something deeper, and they were going to hear every word. Terence stood motionless, rooted to the floor in his hoodie and joggers, a stark contrast to the pristine showroom around him. He didn't have to command attention. He already owned the space in a way that required no permission. This moment wasn't about exerting power. It was about presence, and everyone in that room felt it. "We're going to talk about what happens next," he said, his voice even, unwavering. "But not just about this store. Not just today." He turned slightly toward Warren, who understood the unspoken instruction. Without hesitation, Warren stepped outside, motioning toward the sidewalk. A few moments later, two more people entered the room. The first was Sasha Lamont. Terence's had a client experience, a woman who understood the intricacies of human interaction better than most. The second was Ronald Sturgis, a quiet but sharp regional trainer who had helped shape the retail culture for Blake, Moore, and Cone across 6 cities. Their presence alone shifted the energy in the room. Jennifer's gaze flickered between them, uncertainty written across her face. Mr. Coyle cleared his throat, as if he had something to say, but no words came. Sasha gave a soft, reassuring smile. "We're not here to punish anyone," she said. "We're here to show you something." Terence nodded. "Because what happened today, it's not rare, and it's not just about you. It's about the way this industry was built." He paused, letting that truth settle before continuing. "I've had high net worth clients tell me they bring assistants just so they'll be treated with respect." He let the words hang in the air. "You think that's right?" No one answered. Ronald stepped forward, his voice calm but pointed. "We train on product. We train on language. But too many of us never got trained on people, on judgment, on the unconscious decisions that feel small but carry weight." Coyle's eyes dropped to the floor. I thought I was being careful." Terence didn't scold him, You were being selective, he corrected. You were protecting a space you assumed needed protecting. But what you really did was close the door on someone who built it. Sasha stepped forward, handing Jennifer a small stack of cards. These are real stories from real clients, she explained. Anonymous, but every single one of them came from a Blake, Moore, or Devlin store. Read the top one. Jennifer hesitated before taking the card. Her voice wavered slightly as she read aloud. Asterisk, walked in with my teenage son. No one spoke to us until a white customer entered. Suddenly, 3 people asked if they could help her. We left, never went back. Asterisk, she stopped, swallowed hard. I'm sorry, she whispered. Terence stepped in. You know what's tough? That customer probably didn't say anything. They didn't argue. They just took their wallet elsewhere. And that hurts more than words. He turned to Coyle. You've been with the company 7 years, right? Almost 8, Coyle murmured. You're a good salesman. That's why you're here. But selling jewelry isn't about judging who looks like money. It's about making every person feel like they belong here. That's how you build loyalty. The room was still. Outside, the hum of a passing delivery truck filled the silence. Jennifer blinked, fighting back a tear. I didn't think I was that person. Terence held her gaze. You're not the only one, but you were that person today. And now you've got a choice. You can be better, or you can be comfortable. Ronald stepped in again. Starting tomorrow, all sales staff will go through a new human-first training program. Not sensitivity training. Not a checklist. We're going to talk. We're going to listen. And it's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. But that's the only way this changes. Mr. Coyle finally spoke. Do I still have a job? Terence's expression remained unreadable. That depends. Are you here to protect a commission or serve people? Even in this confrontation, Terence wasn't trying to break them. He was trying to break the cycle. But the most important part was still coming. He let the silence linger before finally speaking again. This isn't about one awkward moment. It's not even about one bad call. He stepped back, hands resting casually at his sides. Let me tell you about a friend of mine. He's worth 8 figures. Owns a tech firm in Phoenix. Drove his old beat-up Jeep to a luxury dealership just last month. They didn't even let him pass the welcome mat. Terence shook his head, half smiling at the absurdity. You know what he did? He walked out, went 2 miles down the road, bought 2 cars, paid in full, left a tip so big the saleswoman cried. Ronald gave a knowing grunt. Happens all the time. It does, Terence agreed. And that's the thing. You never know who's walking in. But more importantly, you never know what they're carrying. Some walk in with cash. Others walk in with pride. Some walk in trying to forget what they just went through that morning. And all they want is to feel human, not size up, not ignored. Jennifer straightened. She wasn't defensive anymore. She was just listening. I don't need this store be trendy, Terence continued. I need to be honest. People are tired of walking into rooms where the temperature changes as soon as they enter. He looked around again. It's not always loud. It's not always hostile. Sometimes it's just silence, a hesitation, a glance. Warren finally spoke. We got data from over 200 clients across 14 stores. Same pattern, same feedback. Too many people of color, women, and younger customers feeling like they have to prove something before anyone even makes eye contact. Coyle ran a hand over his face. We're trying to protect the brand. Terence's tone was firm, but even. And what do you think is the brand, Mr. Coyle? A logo? A name? He motioned toward the framed mission statement on the wall. Luxury for every story. Look at that. Do you believe it? Jennifer hesitated. I want to, she admitted. I didn't realize I drifted from it. We all drift, Terence said simply. What matters is whether we steer back. Sasha tapped her tablet screen. We're launching a company-wide listening session next month. Anonymous stories. In-person conversations. Real accountability. This isn't just for corporate. It's for everyone. If you've ever made someone feel small in this space, now's the time to unlearn it. Terence exhaled. I've been silent before. in other places. Told myself it wasn't the time to speak up, but when it happens in your own house. He shook his head. You don't stay quiet anymore. Ronald nodded. We don't fix this with a memo. We fix it one room at a time. Terence gave a short laugh, not out of humor, but clarity. When I bought Devlin and Royce, people said I'd never be able to shift the culture. He looked Coyle dead in the eye. Watch me. But culture doesn't change with a single speech. It's about what comes next. As he walked toward the exit, he paused by the case where he'd once been told to leave. He tapped the glass lightly. That one. Sasha glanced at the display. The platinum chronograph? Terence nodded. Add it to the company training collection. Not for sale. Not for display. Just something to remind people where this all started. Sasha smiled. Symbolic. No, Terence said. Real. And as he walked into the California afternoon, no one watched him go like a stranger. No one questioned if he belonged. Because the truth was undeniable. He always had.